Thank you, Ms. Harland. I'm calling this session the Board of Revision to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional land of the Ojibwe, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation Treaty 3 territory. My name is Harvey Diamond. With me today are Linda McFadden and Brett McIntyre. The administrator of this hearing is Crystal Harland, and our assessor is Clayton Diachin. We'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which the revision is requested has been described in the application, and we'll limit discussion to that matter. The statements that are made at this hearing must be sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to such matters must first be sworn in. Be advised, the comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered as evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. We make our decision based on the evidence provided at this hearing, and will issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to the application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or to classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. And should you wish to appeal, information on do so will be included with our order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of interest with your property to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by any questions the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by any questions. And each shall be given an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence on the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliver in private to make its decision. You'll receive the decision of the board by written mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recording will form part of our public record. And today we'll be hearing item 4 on the agenda, our docket. And Mrs. Harlan, can you please affirm both Mr. Diachin and Mr. Charlebois-Page at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Clayton Diachin.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Stephen Charlebois-Page.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the only matter that we're hearing today is item number 4, which is the property 111 Fort Street. And Mr. Diachin, when you're ready, you can proceed.
Okay, this is file number 24-2459. The roll number is 12097804365. Address is 111 Fort Street. Roll years 2025. Assessed values at $4,049,000. It is a vehicle service related property. It is comprised of 3 buildings, 6 premises, 1 to 2 stories high. It was built in 1910 to 1950 with effective year built in 1925 to 1950. The gross floor area is 25,052 with the leasable area at 24,145. Going on to page 3 is just some overhead view of the property along with a street view. Page 4 is another shot of the back of the property. Then page 5 is another view of the other end of the property, so you can see the found tire, because it is in essentially 2 portions. One, the VSG, so it's the found tire, and then the other end is the retail section that we'll look at. Page 6 is the market income breakdown. So you can see this is the retail portion. So it's 3 premises, totaling 10,216 square feet for a potential rent of $151,648. So the first one is at 5,100 square feet at a rent of $1,596. Second one's at 346 square feet for a rent of $1,734, and the third premise being 4,770 square feet at $1,3 47. The vacancy is 5%, expenses are at 3%, and the shortfall is at $7 a square foot, bringing the NOI to 136,168. And we applied a cap rate of 7.65%, bringing the value for this portion to $1,780,000. The second portion being the VSG, the vehicle service garage. So again, it has 3 premises as well. The first one being the main floor at 3162 for a rent of 1565. The second one being a upper kind of storage mezz area being at 3162 at a rent of $3.91. And finally, the third premise is 7,605 square feet at a rent of $14.38. So the total potential rent is at $171,208. Vacancy is 2%, expense is 3%, and the shortfall is at $6 per square foot. Brings the NOI to $161,079 for a cap rate of 7.1%. And that brings the value for this portion to $2,269,000. Page 8 is just the income value summary, so it shows the combined breakdowns for the 2 income streams, and shows the total value of $4,449,000. $4,049,000, sorry. And then continue on to page 9 is the comparables, so you can see the retail rent comparables. So I tried to find some in the 5,000-ish square feet, and some bigger ones, a couple smaller ones because there's a small portion. But you can see that the range is about $14 to $22.16, with an average rent of $17.97 and a median of $18 a square foot. And then the VSG comparables, so we have our ranging from $16 all the way up to $31.85. You can see some of the larger ones because this one is a relatively large VSG. Larger ones are around, well, $22 and $19 a square foot. So I think it falls well in line with our comparables for the VSG. Onto page 10 is our cap rate table. Again, this cap rate table is just to show how our property types cap rates stack up to the Colliers, CBRE, Cushman, and Wakefield. Especially for the retail, we can see it's 7.65% that we applied to it. It's at the high end of all these ranges. So I think we're already at the very tippy top for cap rates for that, along with the VSGs at a pretty high rate as well. Page 11 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Page 12 is the 2021 mailer, which is quite hard to read. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that one because the writing or something got very hard to read there. And then page 16 is the 2022 mailer. So you can see on, sorry, continuing on to page 17 is the mailer, and then page 18 is the rent roll. You can see the various properties in this in this building. So the Found Tire, for some reason, the Found Tire isn't in the 3162 for both these, but I'm not too sure why, because by the pictures, it clearly looks like they're using that space as well. The rents seem pretty low that they're reporting on here. I know the Ink Noir Tattoo Studio indicated that it was a month to month. For some reason, it doesn't say that on here, but it was indicated on the mailer that it was. But when I converted to the PDF, it somehow did not say that. But then on page 19, I included the 2023 mailer. I know it's the due date's technically post-reference, but the lease start dates are all pre-reference. And from what I could tell, that these leases started January 31st, 2023, and they're all higher numbers than the 2022 mailers. So it's kind of hard to understand if these are all month to month or if they're steps every year or what the case is. So I didn't put a ton of weight on these mailers and the rents that were reported here. And that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, Page, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Could I confirm with you that the value presented today was model generated?
That's correct.
Would you agree the tenancy mix here of a tire garage, the hair salon, and the ink studio would be an inferior mix for one property?
I wouldn't be able to speak on that. I'm not too sure.
Okay. I noted you had some retail comps there. Are all of those main floor? Your retail comps that are on page, page 9. The subject property has a approximately 5,000 square foot hair salon on the ground floor, a 4,500 square foot ink studio on the second floor, and a 500 square foot office space. And I noted there's no office comparables, and I just see prime retail
Mr. Sharp,
tenants.
Page, are you asking questions or giving evidence right now?
I'm asking questions.
Well, because it's really, I think you're going on. I think if you're going to ask questions, maybe shorten them so that we can get answers. You've been going on for quite a bit of time and not giving the assessor an opportunity of answering.
Okay. Did you consider upper floor retail tenancies in your rent comparables?
I'm not too sure if any of these are upper floor ones.
Did you consider office comparables?
I didn't because it was a retail property, so I just looked at retail comparables.
Okay. Lastly, the Fountain Tire generates $107,160 in rental income from the 2022 mailer. You currently have it assessed at $171,208. Do you think that's too high?
I wouldn't use that one because I believe that is an outdated lease. I would probably more likely look at the one from the 2023 mailer. I'm not too sure what that comes out to, but again, like I said, our cap rate's at the very highest, probably even too high then if that's the case. So if the rents were to come down, I would say the cap rate would have to come down too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden, any questions?
Has this property been inspected?
Not by me personally, and I don't remember the last time. I think the last time might have been 2013 that it was inspected by our department.
So
But I believe it should be.
the leasable area that you're assigning to these places is coming from the rent roll? Is that accurate?
The areas would have been coming from when this building was added, so the original building plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Thank
sorry,
you.
to further that,
Go ahead.
I do agree that this probably should be inspected at some point just to confirm these areas. And I think that will be spoke about a little bit more in our rebuttal documents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
If you turn to page, let me see, page number. Page 5, I'm trying to figure out, this is the picture with Fountain Tire on the left and their blue paint continues on to the office retail. Are those two overhead doors going into the retail office building?
Yeah, they're going into the main floor of it. Yeah, on the rebuttal document that I sent in, it kind of explains this a bit better. It's a bit complicated on how this is all set up. But yes, they are going into the retail portion.
So this goes back to the picture on page 4. This looks like it's also going into a part of the retail building.
Yeah, so this is part of, it's kind of in behind the retail portion and it goes into like almost a back lane and then there's some entrances through the back. I don't know. If you look on page 3, you see the loft sign, and then if you just go past that down the lane and then left, there's kind of a back lane. So
Okay.
that's kind of like the back entrance, I guess, to the where Fountain Tire uses as well. You can you can see on the top picture on page 3 as well. It's kind of near the bottom of that picture.
Okay, I was just trying to understand how this
Yeah.
was configured.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
kind of an interesting one.
that was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I read ahead and I noticed that we're maintaining for the retail part 5% vacancy. And is that the normal retail vacancy for the downtown area, or is it higher than usual?
I believe that's normal, like that's our model generated one, but I'm not too sure. I don't deal with retail too much to know, but
So, yeah, because I'm just wondering if a higher vacancy might have been put on this property by the model. But I'm not knowing what the usual vacancy for that area is. That's why I asked the question.
yeah, I would assume that's just the standard vacancy for downtown retail, but I'm not 100% sure, like I said.
And I read ahead Mr. Schroller Page's material, so I'm going to ask this question even though he hasn't presented yet. And I'm surprised he didn't ask the question. But he's claiming that there's a high percentage of vacancy in this property. Has that been factored in at all?
No, because well, it's kind of hard because he hasn't presented.
Would you like me to jump in here? Because I Clayton and I have discussed this
Yeah.
previously, Mr. Chair, and I'll be withdrawing that position. The 2022 mailer has 2 spaces. Anyway, do you want me to address this now, or I could address this during my evidence? I'll be withdrawing
later. If it's going to be addressed.
Okay. Yes. I'll address it.
It's a question that has to be answered before we come to a decision.
Okay.
But certainly can be addressed later, as long as we have it before us, so we can properly determine.
Okay.
For sure. I'll address it in both my presentation
Okay, so
and
then
the
I don't have
rebuttal.
any other questions. Thank you. So you indicate you have rebuttal, which we can save, and
Right.
we'll let Mr. Charlotte Page go on with his material then.
I also have rebuttal, but I can start with my presentation if you prefer.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. So the subject property is a automotive vehicle garage mixed with retail and office space. The subject property used to be valued for the purposes of assessment under 3 assessment roll numbers, but was combined under 1, I believe around 2018. So the municipal addresses are 111 Fort, 117 Fort, and 123 Fort. Now that they're combined into one single building, there's what I believe to be an inferior tenant mix with the auto garage, hair salon, and ink studio. The chair has already noted, or I guess, sorry, the panel has already noted sort of that area where the bay doors connect with the building. So I'll direct that more maybe in my rebuttal. I've included some images. I was able to inspect the property yesterday via a video chat with a colleague of mine. So the subject property has a leasable area of 18,930 square feet. Current assessment is $4,049,000 in the commercial class. Set aside the sales comparison and cost approach, and I'll focus in on the income approach. So again, just sort of speaking there, I'll use PDF pages. I apologize, my page numbers fell off, but on PDF page 7 of mine, you'll see the similar picture to the one Clayton had with the Fountain Tire, and he sort of noted it there. Bay door 8 and 9 take up part of the neighboring property there, and they've had to install exhaust fans and external fans to sort of deal with some of the, I guess, fumes that come off of that site and were bothering the neighboring tenancies. So further down, I'll start into my rental comparables. So for the vehicle service garage, there's a lease deal in place at $12 a square foot on the 2022 mailer. So it's 8,930 square feet that's leased to Fountain Tire, and they pay on that. And their annual amount of rent is $107,160. They have been in there since 1998. There's a renewal at 2023, April of 2023 to May of 2020. Sorry, the renewal is from 2023 to 2028. So that's the best indication of market value for that space. Moving down to the retail and office portion, I surveyed deals on Fort Street. I've dealt with a number of properties on here. Some of the rents are quite low. The second floor space, you'll see there's no elevator in this building. And a few of my other comparables 2 and 3, also don't have elevators in those buildings, an active elevator. So these would be inferior sort of rent comps for retail and mixed office space in the immediate vicinity. They're ranging honestly quite large from that deal in the subject property at $420 up to $12 a square foot. So for the Ink Studio, there's a lease in place at $4.20 a square foot. I've applied that. And then I applied $11 a square foot up near the top of that range to the salon, the ground floor salon. In addition, I just want to note the owner operates a small office space of 500 square feet in the second floor, and I applied $8.25 to that area. So my vacancy allowance in my brief will say 13%. I'm going to withdraw that position and use the 5% and the 2% that are currently assessed, 5% for the retail office portion and 2% for the vehicle service garage. So I noted there a picture of the Cushman Wakefield for lease. And if you want to scroll down, Clayton had it in his brief as well, but I've included the 22 mailer in my appendix. It's second from the last page there. The owner, in a discussion with them, included 2 spaces, and there's no tenant name in them. So there's a vacant space that says 3162 square feet. There's 2 of them, one on the main floor and one on the second. She indicated to me that that was an error. So the property is, 5,000 square foot on the main floor for the salon. They've got the tattoo parlor at 5,000 square feet on the second floor, and Priority Realty, which is owner occupied, 500 square feet on the upper floor as well. And then Fountain Tire has the separate building there at 8930. So I'll be updating my reconciliation of value to account for that. But those spaces should also be removed from my rental analysis. It's a little confusing because they've been listed sort of there erroneously. That being said, my value, I will read it out here because in making those changes, I'm suggesting a value of $921,000 for the retail and office portion. That's calculated at a rent of a total PGI of $79,375, using the actual rent for the Ink Studio, using $825 for the 500 square foot owner occupied office, and $11 for the salon. And then I've applied $5 5% vacancy allowance, $8 shortfall, 3% non-recoverable, and cap rate to follow. And for Fountain Tire, I calculated 8930. It's the same premise. That there's no change to that in the brief. 107,160 is what the owner collected from them in 2022 for that space, and that value remains the same. Capitalization rate, quite a challenging mix for this. You'll see just ahead of my reconciliation of value, I've included both office and retail. I was originally assigning more weight to the office space given those vacancies that I thought existed. However, that's been corrected. I'd actually give more weight to the retail range. And I've applied a 7.75 cap, but knowing the suite mix is, updated to include, predominantly vehicle service garage with ground floor salon and only a partial office, I'd actually say a 7.5 cap would be more appropriate. So my reconciliation of value has been updated. It is $2,265,000. And that is calculated based on the actual rents with the 2 inputs as updated. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions.
Mr. Dietschen, any questions?
Yeah, sorry, just few here, I guess. So for the VSG, you applied the actual rate. Did you use any comparables to support this rent?
No, the owner indicated to me that the actual rent in place was an arm's length deal and a renewal, and at was that April of 2023. I thought it was a strong indicator of value, and that's what you would get if you purchased the property at April 1st, 2023.
Okay. I know you don't have it in there, but did you consider the 2023 mailer that shows that these rents have all increased prior to the reference date?
So I think the 2023 mailer that you included there, those rent steps, since that's a full year of data, and I think it's submitted, correct me if I'm wrong, is it submitted May of 2024, Clayton? I believe it is. It's
It's
for
submitted
fiscal
that day,
year.
but it would be for the month starting January 31st, 2023.
Sure, but I think in saying that when you get information like that, any rent step that would be post reference. So I think you noted it. The one went. We could just talk about it. It went from 12 to 14 bucks for the Fountain Tire. The difference being between 107,000 annual rent to 120,000. You know, would an that's I guess a valuation question. Would a prospective buyer at April 1st, 2023 contemplate that increase? Perhaps if it's close to the valuation date. But either way, currently I think it's 171,000 assessed income on the VSG, and whether it's 107 or 120, it's substantially lower than the current assessment. So.
Okay. Did you consider that the Ink Studio was said to be a month-to-month lease on the mailer?
So my copy of the mailer, just like your PDF copy, didn't have that.
Okay.
And like my version has always showed April 1st. It's in my brief there, the second last page, April 1st, 2020 to February 28th, 2027.
Okay.
And that lease rate, I think, is right around, is it 420 or 450 a square foot? Excuse me, I don't have that calculation, but I have it as a lease deal, like with term.
Okay. I guess, sorry, going back to the rents that you applied, the 420, that seems like it's quite an outlier then, even based on the comparables that you used, correct?
Yeah, so you know what, and that's the challenge. So you see there in my brief before the vacancy issue, before I thought that space was still vacant. In talking with the owner, you'll see Cushman Wakefield has an advertisement on the building for lease. So the owner worked with a professional, lease agent to try and get this spot. That was the spot that was vacant, by the way, is the Ink Studio. It was vacant for several years, the second floor. So I imagine if you're working with a professional brokerage firm and you're seeking for tenants for that space, there's no elevator up to it. So you've got a limited tenancy pool, and it sat vacant for quite a while, even though there was professional marketing. So I think that lease might be an indication of sort of the inferior tenant mix, the chance that you might have fumes from the neighboring tire shop on an abutting wall. So.
Okay. Sorry, just the last question. Looking at comparables 2 and 3, look like they expired prior to the reference date. Did you have updated leases for them by chance, or?
I did not. I did not have those updated.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
I have a few. If I look at your income workup, you're showing office retail space to be 15,215 square feet.
Correct.
Does that include part of the office space that's in the garage? In other words, Fountain Tire have a reception area and all of that stuff?
So I asked about that to the owner, and the indication to me is that building, the retail office building, is 10,500 square feet. So in my revised value, I've removed that. That is it's an error. It's not vacant space. It's space that doesn't exist. In my rebuttal, I have the ground floor template of the Fountain Tire at 8930. It'll have a diagram of that space. And upon inspection of the property yesterday, those spaces are not there. The property is 100% occupied at that 10,500 square feet for Lux and Fuhr, Priority Realty Inc. and Ink Noir Tattoo Studio. Again, 100% occupied at 10,500.
So if you look at the mailer that was submitted by the owner, I think it was on Mr. Deitchin's brief, the one we can actually read.
Yep.
Fountain Tire Corporation is listed as floor 1 occupancy code, primary use number 5. They're at 7,605 square feet. And there's another space just below them at 3,162 square feet. Is that also Fountain Tire?
No, that's an error. So if you look at the second to last page of my brief, I have that same, let's call it the legible copy of the tenant roster. What you'll see there is the Fountain Tire Corporation at 8,930 square feet, the leased area. You'll have Lux and Fuhr, Priority Realty, and Johnny Yang, and those are the correct and full tenant rosters with the correct areas.
So if I go back to the monthly rent on this one we can read.
Yeah.
The monthly rent is 8,930 square feet, and you're saying, no, that's the leased area?
No, it's both. If you multiply the monthly rent, so if you take that 8,930 and you multiply it by 12, that'll be the annual rent. And then if you divide that by 8,930, which is the square footage, you'll get $12 a square foot, which is what they're paying for the space.
And then again, on this mailer that was typed that we can read, there's 2 spots of the 3,162 square feet.
Correct.
So is what you're telling us that this information submitted is incorrect?
There was an error in the submission. That is correct. Those spaces that was the basis of my vacancy position, and I've removed that. Those spaces are not relevant. Those are an administrative error.
And finally, my last question, would you agree that the property owner is Liable Tire Holdings Limited?
I could just verify that, but I believe that's correct. That is correct.
Is there any relationship between Liable Tire Holdings Limited and Fountain Tire Corporation?
To my knowledge, that there is no, the only relation of owner occupancy within the building is the 500 square foot office in the second floor.
Would you not think that that was odd?
I did, and Mr. Chair, to be blunt, a review of this information, that mailer was confusing even for myself in preparing this. So but in clarifying all that, the Fountain Tire deal is arm's length to my knowledge. The Salon deal is arm's length to my knowledge, and the Ink Noir deal is arm's length to my knowledge. Only that 500 square feet on the second floor would not be. And the owner has indicated to me that they worked with professionals to get those lease deals in place.
Okay, thank you very much. That was all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden, do you have any questions?
Yes, just a clarification. So we're now dealing with a building that has a total leasable space of 19,430. Is that correct? We've lost, I don't know.
Yeah, that 6,320 and
Yeah.
change it was erroneously. I can add. Let me just do that calculation so I can provide you with my best answer to that. So 10,500 plus the 8,930. 19,430, is that the number you gave, Madam Chair?
That's correct. That's
Correct.
So the biggest difference in the valuation is actually the difference in the square footage that we're dealing with. That's
correct. And to be fair and to be transparent is that the city has assigned, it's a nominal rent, but they've assigned a rent to a mezzanine portion in the Fountain Tire space. Again, principally from my valuation standpoint, the owner rents that space to Fountain Tire, 8,930 square feet. They get the mezzanine as well, and they collect $107,000 a year. So for all that space, including the mezz, that's the income generated. But yes, you are correct in saying that area would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Clayton, in Clayton's presentation, the current city value Let me just pull up that space. They have 10,216 assessed as retail area. So they already have the smaller area for the retail and office building. It's just the mailer that had that error.
Okay, so it's the mezzanine that's the issue then. Mezzanine
Correct.
is different.
And the assessed rental rates are far in excess of what the rents the owner's been able to procure for the spaces. Again, you'll see the Cushman Wakefield sign up there. This owner has worked with professional brokerages to sign these deals. Just think it's inferior space and an inferior tenant mix.
Sure, and that difference is on the retail. There's really not a very big difference on the vehicle service in the rental amount.
I mean, they do have 171,000 assessed annually, and the 2022 mailer shows an annual income of 107. So, it does, yeah, it's quite substantial there. I just think the actual rents, the actual performance of the subject property and the model here are so far away, and I think that's one of the issues Clayton and I had in terms of dealing with this property.
Okay, I think I understand it all now. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think I do too. So I think we can then go on with, we both have rebuttals, and I think we should see those. So, Ms. Harlan, are you going to put them into the SharePoint and we'll refresh?
Yes, just a moment, please, Mr. Chair. My apologies, I forgot about the rebuttal.
Sorry, am I allowed to ask one more question?
Yes, certainly.
I just was sorry, Stephen. I was just trying to figure out on page 27, the mailer that you posted in, like where is this from? Because I paste in the same mailer and it's different. So was this changed at some point?
I don't think so. I'm actually curious about that because you have
I have the mailer.
your mailer is changing is it changing from month to month to the lease term based on whether it was PDF'd or not? That's why maybe
No.
because you indicated to me that deal showed month to month on the mailer, but that's the one we have. Like these would be downloaded from the city portal.
Right, but I don't know if it's even. Yeah, like I don't know. I'm looking at the mailer for 2022, and it's showing 7605 square feet, but then yours looks like it's saying 8930 for the same mailer. I don't know. I was just trying to figure it out.
I'm unsure, but
it's whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but to be blunt, the document is downloaded from the city portal straight to the drive. Like I don't, none of it's been modified. It would be yeah.
I just okay.
And again, like acknowledging the confusion does come in here with these two 3162 square foot units that are not, relevant or existing. So that is an administrative error on that document. So.
Well, okay. I guess that's why one other question. The 3162 is the storage mezz area, correct?
So is that the size they have recorded? Perhaps, but the second one, there's two of those units listed on there with no tenancy, and I believe that's an error.
Well, let's just go into the rebuttal. Maybe that'll.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good idea.
Okay, panel members and Mr. Chair, your rebuttal is in the, your folder
Okay.
as of now. And I'll send, do you want some time to take a look at it?
No, I think we'll just let the parties proceed and go through it.
Okay, and I will send each party's rebuttal to the applicant and the assessor.
Perfect.
Okay, it's all sent. Please let me know if you can't access it or if you don't receive it in the next few minutes.
Okay, and on second thought, Mrs. Harland, I'm thinking that maybe we should go on camera because we should determine whether either of these rebuttals are more than rebuttals. If they form new evidence, then we really shouldn't allow them. So I think we should take some time to review them in camera and make a determination.
All right, I'll put the assessor and the applicant in the waiting room and I'll go take us offline.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we've looked at both of the rebuttals and we've come to the determination that they really constitute new evidence. They have photographs in them that could have been submitted with the original. So they're both being filed in late. There's nothing in there that we feel is of a rebuttal nature. And under those circumstances, we're not going to allow either. So we've now heard all the evidence, but I will allow both of you to sum up, make a summation, and then we're going to close for making a determination on the matter. So, Mr. Charlotte Page, I'll let you go first if you want to make a summation.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a brief summation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just ask the panel to review the actual lease deals in place and consider the difficulty the landlord or the owner would have in this case renting to this sort of a tenant mix, challenging with the garage and the office and the upper floor ink studio. And I would just ask the board to consider the actual rents in place here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ditchin?
Yeah, I guess just quickly, I feel like it's difficult to apply actual rents when we don't exactly know the actual rents as of the reference date, whether they're changing or not monthly or whatever. I feel like our comparables are supportive of the current values, and I think our cap rates are at the very high end already. And that's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've now heard the one item on the agenda today that we had to determine, so we're going to close the hearing. You will both hear from us very soon once we make our decision. And thank you for your attendances and your submissions.
Thank you. Have a good day,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Have a good
Thank you very
weekend.
much.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll take us offline.
Thank you.